The following program is produced by Londonderry residents. The views and opinions expressed are not necessarily the views and opinions of the LACTV staff or its volunteers, and should not be considered an endorsement by CTV 20 or its staff and volunteers.
Hello, Londonderry. This is State Representative Wayne McDonald, and welcome to another episode of Concord Conversations. Many of my colleagues are busy this week in Concord, dealing with Senate bills. We've sent all of the House bills over to the Senate. Senate has returned the favor and sent their bills over to us, and Representative Doug Thomas, who often is on this program and is a frequent host, he is actually in Concord today. He is sitting through an executive session and voting on Senate bills in his committee today, Science, Technology, and Energy. The Speaker of the House, Sharon Packard, who is often on here as a co-host, he is also in Concord doing the many tasks he needs to do as the third-ranking member of state government. And again, we're very fortunate to have the Speaker of the House here from Londonderry. And many of us just had a meeting with the town manager and had a very productive exchange about local and state issues. And we'll talk about that at another time on another episode. But this morning, I'm very happy to have joining me Joseph Gagnon, the Vice Chairman of the Londonderry Budget Committee. He's in his second year as Vice Chairman. And as you can see by that notebook he has, there's a lot to talk about in terms of finances. Money, how it's raised, how it's spent is a huge issue at every level of government, whether it's federal, whether it's state, county, or local. And Joseph, with that, I'll let you tell us about the Budget Committee and what's going on there.
Sure, I'd love to, Wayne. So I'm going to my fourth year on the Budget Committee, and I can tell you just what an experience it's been to learn about how your taxes are used locally. Not just on the town side, but the school side. In Londonderry, we're one of the towns that has a budget committee that not only oversees the town side, but the school side as well. Other communities, they've got separate budget committees for both. So we've got a much larger picture to look at. And when it comes to budget season, that means there's a lot more meetings and a lot more sitting down with different officials. So for this upcoming year, what we're doing is we're doing what we can to have an impact on the budget. What we found in prior years, I'll tell you my first couple of years, what we found is the voters didn't always go with how the budget committee voted. On your town ballot, you'll see how the budget committee votes, how other committees vote, either the school board or the town council. And what we found is that, why don't the townspeople go with us? Because we are advisory. Our main purpose is listening to you, getting your feedback, your input, asking these questions of what's going on with the budget and relaying that to other different department heads, to the different boards. So this past year, and I'd say the most successful year I've had on the budget committee, where we made the most impact in keeping the budget fiscally responsible, was early on in the year. We started just asking questions of the department heads and getting more of an idea of what are their plans for this budget that's going to hit in the next few months that we'll be rolling into. What we did was we were very inquisitive. We reached out to the community as much as we could, and we tried to take in each aspect of the department. One of the ways that we did that was through these tours that we do. So we meet on the third Thursday of each month over at Town Hall in the Sunnycrest Conference Room, and at 6:30 p.m. And then after we hold our meeting, then we're going to be taking tours to different departments, different areas. We'll be touring the schools later in the summer, We just had our police tour last week. We're going to be touring the fire department and the Department of Public Works. And the reason for this is to get a bigger picture of what are the departments doing? What do they have right now? What are their plans? And also to see, with the budget approved from prior years, how are those monies being used in those departments? We can see this with either personnel who are working there, with vehicles that are being maintained, being purchased. We can see that with just how, work needed to be done to the buildings, how those are done, how those monies were used in those instances. And with the school being about 2/3 of the tax dollars that you pay when you pay your municipal taxes, 2/3 go to the schools. When we do the school tours, we take several days to go through each school. We go through each area. We figure out, hey, these were the projects that the taxpayers approved. This is how these are progressing. The town voted for this warrant. This is how we're implementing it. So we can see and ensure that the dollars that you voted for are being used responsibly. They're actually being used. They're being implemented. And for this year, what we realized is that we wanted to know earlier in the process of kind of how the department heads were thinking, how the town council and school board, what were their thoughts for the upcoming fiscal year? So,
in terms of the relationship between the budget committee and the town council and the department heads, I know sometimes, and I don't know if it was true in this budget cycle, but oftentimes at the state level or in other situations, department heads might be asked to cut their budget or hold a line on spending or reconsider this program or maybe even expand that program. It's not very often they're asked to spend more money. Usually they're asked to spend less. How has that been since you've been on the budget committee? Has there been any difficulty in terms of department heads achieving those kind of goals?
I'd say in the first 2 years, yes. More so on the school side, we'd ask them to make different decreases because we thought, the budget just keeps on increasing by up to 5% each year. Why is it going this way? These monies are being distributed everywhere. Is there a real purpose for it? Do we need that? Do we need these expenses? First 2 years I was on the budget committee, most of the time it'd be shut down as a no. We're not going to decrease. We have this plan, we want to go through with it, we'll take some public comment, we'll make maybe minuscule cuts, but nothing that significantly impacts your tax bill when it comes twice a year. This past year, I'd say we've had huge success.
Good, excellent.
When we went to the school board, they had already taken their, which was phenomenal. Most years you see that the default budget is lower on the school side than the proposed budget from the school board. This is the first year that I remember in a long time that the default was actually higher than the proposed budget from the school board. So they worked to reduce the tax burden on the taxpayers, take it below, default that covers contracts, that covers building maintenance, that covers the general expenses to run things. They found ways to save money due to our input beforehand, and then during the budget process, we're just explaining, hey, this is why we made this responsible cut. So they had been, after years, they started listening. It's like, hey, let's start bringing these numbers lower.
Excellent. And I mean, and that's the biggest part of the budget.
Yeah.
Roughly, is it like 75 or 80%? What percentage of the town spending is the school department? Do you know offhand?
Offhand, it ranges between, I'd say, 66 and 75%,
Okay.
depending
It's
year.
huge.
The numbers, I remember the town was around, I can't remember. Well, I can reference the numbers for the town now, but the school I know was around $90 million. The town, just for you guys, I'm going to make sure I get the numbers completely straight.
It's quite a well-tabbed book you got there.
It is. So $25.8 million from the town side. And as Wayne said in my book, this is what we're given in November. The different finance departments for the town side and school side, they come together, they produce these budget books for us. They say, hey, here you go, take a look. This is what we're going to be talking about between now and deliberative session. We have these budget workshops where we meet at least once a week with the town side and the school side to go over the budget. Different departments, they come to us, so like for the town side, police and fire, Department of Public Works, they'll come to us and they'll come with us with their wants and needs. The police department and fire department and DPW more so this year, they came with us with their needs. Like, this is what we absolutely need in the budget. They've been trying to be very responsible, and talking with them over the past few years, they've been trying to create a responsible budget, and when they ask for more, it's something that they truly need. So the police department, they came to us, they wanted an additional prosecutor. They have, our town, we only have one prosecutor. Due to federal law, we're getting more cases in from the county than we normally would have. And the increase of that burden on our current prosecutor, we'd have to start going elsewhere to find extra prosecutorial help to help us with these cases, or just take cases that were minor and just not go after them.
And Londonderry continues to be in the top 10 largest, among the top 10 largest communities in the state, so it's understandable that we would need to as population grows, unfortunately, often crime grows, and it's understandable we would need that kind of, need to make that kind of a hire.
Exactly, and especially when, the Manchester airport, the majority of the Manchester airport lies in Londonderry, and the crimes happen on the Londonderry side. And we already have police officers who are over there from our police department helping out. You're already paying for that. And for any arrests that are happening, it's just going to help lighten the load, and you, the taxpayers, you decided, hey, I want this. This is going to help us out. This is going to help the town out. We're going to be able to put more people who are breaking the law either behind bars or facing the consequences of their actions because of this. And with the fire department, they wanted this vehicle, they called it the fly car. And what it would do is would help the fire department respond to emergency, so let's just say, Wayne, you're home, you're having a stroke, someone calls 911. All of the fire department vehicles from the town are out of town because we have these, the name's not getting me right in the head, but we work
reciprocity.
Yeah,
or something
reciprocity
like
with other towns where if they need our help, we'll go over there, and vice versa. I'm sure you see on the streets, you might see a Derry ambulance coming through Londonderry with their lights on. That's because we have reciprocity with them. They're helping us out. So this fly car will just stay in Londonderry, and it will go to the most urgent cases where someone's either having a stroke. It's like near death. It's something incredibly serious. It's a medical emergency, and that cuts down the time for you to get this help that you need. So, we took a look at the wants,
Sure.
at the needs, I should say. There were a lot of needs this year, and so we fought for those when we felt that department absolutely needed something that would help out the town, that would help out the taxpayers, and the cost wasn't too exorbitant. We voted along those lines to support something.
The budget went up in terms of percentage increase, 5 or 6%, 5.99 or something like
Yes.
that? Okay. How does that compare? And I'm not sure if this is a fair question or if it's one that you folks delved into, but there's 26,000 people in Londonderry?
26, 27.
How does that compare with communities of comparable size in the state? Is that something you folks looked at or are aware of?
So we've gotten, during different budget presentations, we see the comparison with different towns. I can say that's lower than Derry. I can say that's lower than Exeter. Tax rate per individual's your tax bill. It's
and
lower.
Exeter is a smaller community too, so it's,
So it's with comparable communities, we're on the lower side. We're not the lowest. Hopefully one day we can get there. I'd love to see us get there, but we're not. But it's also not exorbitant compared to other communities.
And Exeter is it's a ritzy town, as we know. You've got a very prominent prep school there, a very It's kind of an elite population, and I mean that in a positive way. It's a wonderful community, but at the same time, the wants there must be pretty substantial, and the more you want, the more it costs.
And they usually get their wants, right? We usually deny the wants and focus more on the needs
Sure.
here in Londonderry.
That makes sense.
What does it take to the first goal is to keep everything fiscally responsible, right? Just keep everything within, because we're all taxpayers on the budget committee, and that's the biggest thing. Everyone that's on there, we're paying taxes in town. We feel the dent in our pockets, when the tax bill comes twice a year for property tax. And so when we're thinking about, okay, so why do they want it? And is it going to be that much is it going to hurt us that much personally? Because none of us are doing, some people are doing well, but I'm sure you all know it's tough out there, and you've seen it's not great.
Inflation is no one's friend.
Yeah.
And certainly not the taxpayers or for most of us. And it certainly presents additional challenges in terms of property values and everything else, and absolutely so. And it's good that, when, that's the advantage of an elected budget committee, an elected town council. The voters have an opportunity to put people in that they can gauge, who can sympathize and understand what they're going through and empathize with that. And because if our elected officials can't do that, then they can't do their jobs effectively, in my opinion. So.
Exactly, and you have some communities in the state where the budget committees have appointed members from different boards. So I say them off the top of my head. I have an understanding of how their budget committee works. They have appointments from the town and the school side who sit on the budget committee. And when you have someone that's appointed by town council or from the school board, whose interests are they going to be looking after? The agendas of both these boards are for you, the citizens. Here in Londonderry, you pick all 7 of your members, right? We're only accountable to you guys. That's it. When we get elected, it's just elected by the people. There's no other appointments.
And they're staggered terms, right?
Yes, so 3-year term staggered. So, over the course of 3 years, you can create a new budget committee if you want to. And this is a very young budget committee that we have right now.
So it would go to 1 year, to another year, and then a third year. And the relationship, on the ballot, and I know there was, we had a bill in the House that would take this kind of information off of the warrant articles. And I think it passed, I'm not sure. Representative Ron Dunn, who spoke to that, and who's a town councilor as well as a state representative, I know that he wouldn't remember, because he spoke on it on the floor of the House, but on the warrant articles, it'll indicate whether, how the budget committee felt about a particular warrant article, how this town council felt about a particular warrant article. Usually there's a high agreement between the two bodies, not exact necessarily, and there are times you disagree, but most of the time the two bodies both favor a particular warrant article, and obviously there's a high degree of communication along the process. So.
Yeah, and the reasoning for that, why, and that's something that I'm opposed to, because if you go to a Londonderry budget committee, or if you watch it, you'll see that when it comes to public comment, usually there is no one there, or even there's no one there watching the process. When we have these meetings outside of budget season, we had the first person who came to a budget committee this past week. He came, he listened, he participated in public comment. He wasn't elected to any other board. He wasn't a town employee giving us additional information.
Just an average citizen.
Just an average citizen.
Right? That's what you want.
Yeah, in over 3 years of being on the budget committee, this was the first time that an average citizen has shown up to just one of those meetings outside of the budget workshops. So I do feel that having our vote on there is important, because we've put in this work, and the reason why we usually end up lining up, like you said, we do have our disagreements. But when they line up, it's because between November and February, we have been hashing out those differences at all of these budget workshops. We have been going over the numbers, we have been talking about it. Like take the Lions Hall, for example. there was discussion of Lions Hall renovation, should it be, or just money there just so that the building would be somewhat usable, not even renovating it, but just having it to a decent state for it to stand. There's discussions of should monies be spent towards that. We had met as a budget committee beforehand, and we felt, well, we need to know what this money is being spent for, because it wasn't outlined. There was a proposal of maybe $500,000 just to throw some money there, get it to some sort of state that could be used. We felt, well, we don't know what this $500 is being used for. Went to the joint budget session with the town council. We all talked about it, and the general consensus was, well, we don't know what this is going, if $500,000 would even cover it. We don't know the exact cost, what everything would be used for. We don't have an outline. And then after 2 more meetings, decided, okay, this shouldn't be on the ballot because we don't have a plan yet to come to the taxpayer with. I wouldn't have been able to tell you if you asked me, oh, what are these monies being allocated for? Well, I don't know, we'll figure out along the way. I think that's a lazy excuse, and so did other members between the budget and the town council. So these meetings, very important. And when it comes to pickleball, for example, where there was a kind of divide between on the council and on the budget committee as well, talking about the process. We'd been through the process over the past year. Both the town council and budget committee listened to the pickleball committee that came up, brought kind of what their plan was. Some of us, like myself, were unsure about it. One, it was a want, but also we didn't know exactly what the monies, if allocated, what exactly it would pay for. It would be depending on charity from other individuals and banking on that charity, and that concerned me. That concerned other members. As much as that would be great for the elderly community in town, I don't know if it would have delivered what was promised, which was 10 courts is what everyone was hoping for, and what folks are saying, hey, this will probably get us 10 courts, probably isn't great for me. So that's why these meetings are important. We get to talk about these issues. And that's why when it comes to the ballot, we had over 4,000 people show up to vote on election day.
Highest in 4 years, I heard,
Yeah.
in terms of turnout in a local election.
And I can tell you there weren't even 50 people in any of the meetings I was at. Deliberative. I'm unsure of the turnout numbers. Maybe we broke 100 these years. I mean, I know my first deliberative years ago was on a snowstorm. It was jam-packed. I was 18 years old.
Baptism by fire, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I asked around, I was like, there's only a couple hundred people here. I was like, oh, well, this is a good turnout for deliberative. And then again, my first one, it was a snowstorm day, then another during COVID, jam-packed. And jam-packed is, a few hundred people. And, others in this town have seen upwards of maybe 500, but, these decisions impact a community of 27,000 people.
Now, for the benefit of the folks at home, you said that the budget process tends to be, November to February?
Yeah.
And the fiscal year begins, is it July 1st?
Yes.
Okay. So, which is the same as the state biennium. We have a 2-year budget at the state level, but many communities and the federal government, actually the federal government I think goes October 1st.
That I'm not sure
I
of.
think the federal, so different governments go by different budget cycles, but that's what I thought. That's a very common one. July 1st, and again, that's what the state does when we are in the beginning of a budget cycle, which starts in started last year. You mentioned interacting with state departments, local departments in town government. I know on the town council, individuals are assigned specific departments. Does that work? Is that the same way as the budget? Does the budget committee work the same way? Or?
So we work the same way, not the same liaisons that we have with other departments, but what we like to do is we divvy it up. We've got 7 people. Usually everyone's got 2 that they're working on.
And what are your 2?
So my 2 are the fire department and the library. And the library is a new one. Police department and the library. Library is a new one this year. The reason for that was in the last budget season, we had a lot of questions for the library and for the trustees and for the library director. through our question, we ended up getting some good cuts out of the library department that didn't affect their operations, but they were bringing on a new program that was going to make some of the programs that they already had redundant, and we're saying, well, if we're paying for this and you're already providing this, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to us. Explain it to us. So when we enter the next budget season, we'll know more about what the library does when we go in there. We'll know their thinking, and that's the whole thing. These liaisons, we cover the town council, town hall. That was a new one we implemented last year. They meet with the finance director and town manager. Fire department, DPW, police department, library, planning board. We added that this past week because we felt that we should have someone on the planning board, knowing that these decisions will have an impact on the tax rate. And we get to watch it as it comes through the planning to the town council and just have more of an idea, and just be more responsible to the taxpayers in that sense. And then we have the school board and superintendent for the school side. In prior years, I've covered DPW and the school board. I'm taking leaning more so into the town side. Kind of want to diversify my knowledge of how these other department works, even though I interact with them during budget season, but more of the inner workings and how do these department heads think when they're coming up with a budget.
And your liaison responsibilities aren't limited to just budget time either, right? Any issues that come up during the course of the year?
Oh, definitely.
You're also involved with the police or the library in those cases too?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I spent when I first ran my first meeting, it's like, oh, well, we meet once a week, but you're going to be spending a lot more time than this. Not once a week, but once a month, because we have our meetings once a month, but that's, throughout the month, it's keeping up with these departments and trying to figure out more information of, how are, just simply, how are you guys doing with the current budget you have now? How have things changed when prepping for the next budget? And then budget season, we're spending 10 hours a week just in meetings, let alone, it looks like a big book, but wait till you see the book that the school district gives us. It's even larger than that. So there's a lot of reading,
Sure.
research. If people have questions, I'll get stuff through social media instead of my email, but just responding to folks and letting them know, hey, this is what we're looking on, or, oh, that's a good question. Let me send an email to the department head and try to get an answer for you.
And this might be more of a town council type question or a finance question for Mr. Campo, but if there's a shortfall, if the library starts running low on money or because of some unforeseen circumstances in law enforcement, that the police department might require a supplemental, how would that happen? Would that be something the town council would have to vote on? Would you folks be involved in that process, or does that never happen?
So we're not directly involved in the process. More so, it's just we're watching it as it goes on. Look, there's an undesignated fund balance which the town side has, that if they truly feel like that they need to draw from it, they will. And that's left up to the town council if they want to draw from that undesignated fund balance. I know the town used a good chunk when dealing with a settlement with a tax dispute with one of the larger taxpayers in town. They had to draw funds from that, and the town council makes that decision. But sometimes they can do the town's been in a freeze. I know a hiring freeze. In talking with the police chief, he's been finding ways to get more money in so that he can ensure that, for the rest of this year up till July, that the department's going to be able to run smoothly. But that's all up to the town council. We're just observers and commentators. Like if someone comes up to us in a budget meeting and asks, hey, why isn't the police department hiring more people? You're down folks on the force. Well, we can tell them why because we have somewhat of an idea, or just bring that to the town council, get more information for them.
You mentioned there are 7 members on the budget committee.
Yes.
There's 5 members on the town council. Just curious, do you know why there's 2 more on the budget committee? It's kind of a structural and maybe even trivial question, but I'm just curious if that's ever been mentioned to you.
So it's never been mentioned to me. That would definitely be whenever the charter was established. Well, for the section of the budget committee, I don't know when that part of the charter was established. For the town side, that's definitely that's something that I want to look into, because we had a question on the ballot that came up. Sadly, it wasn't written properly that could take effect. But a citizen wanted the budget committee to move from advisory to an actual budget committee, like some other towns had. It was labeled in a way that didn't bring it to a charter question, but at the end of the day, whenever they approved that charter amendment to add the budget committee, that's why they decided that there were more.
When you mentioned changing the nature of the budget committee, could you explain the difference? You mentioned that it's advisory right now and obviously heavily engaged, but could you explain the authority you would have if that were changed?
Sure. I mean, I know some towns, the budget committee sets the default budget. We do not set the default budget. That's done by the individuals who are in charge of these departments before it makes its way to the council and the school board. So that would mean that, and with the way that our budget season is structured, we'd be more heavily involved in the departments and we'd be the ones setting it. I don't believe that's where the budget committee for Londonderry, that we should be doing this, that we should be more in-depth earlier on. Because I've seen that the budget committee, one of the jokes I get, or not jokes, but just comments from townsfolk is, oh, I know that budget committee doesn't have any real power. You guys can't really do much, but good job with what you're doing. We've had an impact. We've had, due to our, poking and prodding individuals in town council and school board in the eye, we've seen decreases to those budgets. If we poke and prod enough, if we let them know, it's like, hey, townspeople don't think this line on the budget should be this high, or this area of the budget should be high. We ask these questions and we can deliver results as advisory and lower that proposed budget down.
Sounds like you folks have done a great job on the budget committee, and thanks to all of you for everything you've been doing.
Definitely.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
Well, I guess I got two. One, come to a budget committee meeting or watch us. Every third Thursday of the month right now, 6:30 p.m., we're going to be at the Sunnycrest Conference Room down at Town Hall. If you have questions about the budget, about the process, about even just what we do, we have 2 sections of public comment, 5 minutes in the beginning, 5 minutes in the end. So come, bring questions, or come watch the meeting and ask us some questions. We need your input to function as a good budget committee for the community, because we're advisory. And then my second, budget season, just keep an eye out, go to those meetings. If you want to make an impact on the budget, if you want there to be a change, a decrease to your property taxes, either come to those budget workshops, send us emails. You can email us as well, budgetcommittee@tol.org, tolboards.org, I believe is the new email. You can find it online at londonderrynh.org, how to contact us. But let us know, because we're here for you. And if when you show up on election day and you say, well, this budget is too high, I wish I would have said something, or I wish it was lower, we want to hear that feedback before the budget's already created and on the ballot. We want to hear that beforehand. So please just contribute, let us know your thoughts, an email, showing up to a meeting, however it is that you can do so.
Thank you, Joseph, and thank you for all that information. This is great insight for all of us, and we hope that you watching this have gained some insights into the budget process and to the functioning of the budget committee that you may not have otherwise known. It's an honor for all of us, whether we're involved at the local level or the state level, to be representing you and doing our best to serve you, our fellow citizens of Londonderry. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you at a future episode of Concord Conversations, or at a future budget committee meeting. Thank you very much, and you take care.